What is up, everybody? I am Get Flanked, and today I want to go over why I think that Ace is the best designed DLC operator since Mira. And keep in mind, Mira was year 2, season 1, so that's over 3 years ago at this point. Now, an important distinction there is that I said best designed operator. So although I do believe Ace is a rather strong operator and that he'll find his place in the meta for sure, I'm not necessarily saying that he's overpowered or that he's the strongest operator or the most powerful operator. I think that he's the best designed operator that we've had in this game in a very long time. So why do I feel this way? Well, I think that there's several aspects about Ace that make him very well designed, and we'll touch on those as we go along. But the big thing that I want to focus on in the beginning is the potential for Ace to provide those iconic Rainbow Six Siege interactions in every round in which he's brought. So what do I mean by those iconic Rainbow Six Siege interactions? Well, let me give you an example now that I think you'll be familiar with. It doesn't have to do with Ace, and it's really the first one that comes to mind for me, and that is the interaction between IQ and Pulse. You've got Pulse with the cardiac sensor, you've got IQ with her electronic scanner, and I think everybody's pretty much familiar that IQ counters Pulse and that there's a really interesting interaction between those two operators. If you're an IQ and you see the enemy team has a Pulse, and you actually go through the process of trying to hunt down that Pulse, you find them with your scanner, and you shoot them through the floor, that is what I live for in Rainbow Six Siege. That, for me, is an iconic Rainbow Six Siege moment and feeling that I've never really gotten from any other game. That's what I think makes Rainbow Six Siege great right there. And I think it's important to note that it's not enough just to say they have a Pulse, I brought an IQ, therefore the Pulse is countered. It is they have a Pulse, I have an IQ. IQ gives me a unique tool set to hunt down and leverage my operator against that Pulse and use it to my team's advantage. And I did that. That's an important distinction between Rainbow Six Siege and other games, in my opinion. So now bringing it back to Ace, I really feel like when Ace is on the board, you playing as Ace, as well as the enemy team playing against Ace, have lots of opportunities to have those moments, like I just mentioned there between IQ and Pulse. Have those moments where you use part of your utility to counterplay what the enemy is doing. And if it succeeds, you really feel like you made a play. And that's that feeling that I think most players really love about Rainbow Six Siege. Now, I'm trying to think of every interaction you can have with Ace's Gadget. And if you're not familiar, Ace is a hard breacher. He's got a throwable hard breaching device. Check out my previous video if you want to know more about how he works. But I mean, if you think about all the ways that people can interact with that Gadget, obviously you can bandit trick or cade trick it. So there's, two operators. Mira has a really interesting interaction with Ace, and I'm showing on the screen right now. Shout out to Macy J for originally finding this. But basically, when Ace throws his gadget on the wall, you can place a Mira. It will destroy the rest of the Ace gadget, and then you have the Mira in place with a hole above it that you can peek out of or throw nitro cells out of. Really interesting interaction right there. If you can impact trick it, and you can impact trick it kind of unique because the way that his gadget works, it creates a hole and then it creates another hole, then it creates another hole. So anybody can impact trick it on any wall. You don't have to have the gap above the wall like you do on some maps, because after it creates that first hole, you can use an impact to destroy the rest of it. It's much more susceptible to impact tricking, okay? Mute has a really cool interaction with it. Ace can destroy deployable shields. Ace can destroy Evil Eyes. Evil Eyes can zap it. Walmai interacts with it. ADSs from Jaeger interact with it. So many different ways to interact with this gadget. And every single one of those interactions brings an opportunity for a player that's involved in that interaction to feel like they made a play and to have that really cool moment. To give you a visual demonstration of just how many operators have the potential to have this type of interaction with Ace, on the screen right now, I'm showing every defender in the game right now. If you see a green check mark on that defender, they have the opportunity to have one of those interactions I just mentioned. Now, keep in mind, any operator in the game can just straight up shoot Ace's gadget off of a wall if they have a line of sight. I'm not considering that one of those iconic Rainbow Six Siege interactions, but I do think that impact tricking, mute tricking, cade tricking, bandit tricking, I think that those interactions are iconic, and that's why I have green check marks next to everybody on this list that has, one of those gadgets where they can interact with them. I'm also listing somebody here with a check mark that has a deployable shield because Ace can get rid of that deployable shield. So it goes both ways. You have the opportunity for Ace to make a play on some of these operators and directly counter these operators, then you also have some operators in this list that have, a gadget or some type of utility on them that gives them the opportunity to counter Ace. And when you look at all these interactions, that's a really great thing. Just to give you kind of a different perspective here, on the screen right now, I'm showing Finka. Okay, Finka is kind of the opposite of Ace. Finka, I'm sure you're all familiar with how she does. She does a lot of good things. I'm not like downplaying Finka here at all, but when you look at the amount of defenders that have the opportunity to get some type of interesting interaction with her, it's very limited. I'm even being generous right here. I'm considering, that Clash can slow down an attacker, but I don't think they're slowed down as much if they're under a Finka boost. So I'm like considering that. I'm being very generous in the defenders here that have interesting interactions with Finka, and you can still see how many fewer operators here have that potential with Finka. And I'm not considering Finka blowing up, a deployable shield with her grenades. I don't necessarily feel like that's unique to Finka because so many operators have grenades. It doesn't really give you that same feeling as it does to, use your operator's gadget or to counter an operator's unique gadget. That's really what I'm taking a look at here. Another important distinction that I'll make with Ace here is that he does this in a way that I don't feel is directly oppressive. Now, this is an opinion. You could feel that Ace is so overpowered and breaks the game. That might be your opinion. But for me, you might end up winning a round because Ace opened a wall, but it's not directly oppressive like it is when a Clash shocks you and you're at 5 health and she kills you and there was literally nothing you could do. Like, that's utility that is directly oppressive. And you could say, hey, Clash interacts with every operator. She can slow them down and shock them. But I think it's really cool that Ace is able to have this many unique interactions with different operators in the game without being as oppressive as a Clash or as a Lion was, or maybe even as a Dokkaebi. Dokkaebi has that global that interacts with every single defender. But again, is that a game mechanic that's really enjoyable to play against? Again, it's an opinion, but I really like that they were able to design an operator like Ace that isn't frustrating necessarily to play against in the same capacity as other operators are, but still has a lot of really interesting interactions and counterplay possibilities. So that's the first and biggest reason that I feel like Ace is such a well-designed operator. Second thing I'll say is that he doesn't box you into a playstyle necessarily. Yes, Ace is a hard breacher, but if all else fails, you've got the best AR in the game and you can just go and get kills. So it's not like playing as Kali. And again, I'm not knocking Kali. I think that Kali was a really ambitious operator, and I think that there's a lot of parts of Kali that are really fun, especially now that she has Clash's machine pistols. Kali is really fun to play now. But with Kali, it was like, okay, I want to bring this utility because Thatcher's banned and Kali can get rid of some of this stuff. But because I'm bringing this utility, I'm now pigeonholed into bringing an operator that has this sniper. And maybe I don't want to play with that sniper. Maybe I don't enjoy playing with that sniper, but I want to bring this utility. With Ace, you get to bring that hard breaching utility, but you still have a really good AR. You still have smoke grenades as of right now. And it really allows a lot of freedom for you as a player. And, there are going to be times, say you're solo queuing, where you don't want to bring a thermite. Maybe you don't like Thermite's gun, you don't like his fragging capability, but the team needs a thermite. You can bring an Ace. You can still accomplish that job of being the hard breacher, but if your Thatcher dies to a spawn peak, then you didn't bring an operator that you're unhappy with. You can bring Ace and still frag out and have a good round. That is another really good aspect of Ace, in my opinion. Another aspect of Ace that I think is very well designed is, yes, he's a hard breacher, but he does it all in a different way than the other hard breachers. So the other hard breachers are Thermite, Hibana, and Maverick. Each of these hard breachers now kind of have their own niche role. And you can make the argument that maybe Ace does things that a lot better than Hibana, but the fact at the end of the day is that Hibana can open 3 hatches and Ace can't do that. No other hard breacher can open 3 hatches. So that's unique to Hibana. Maverick can't be tricked. He can open a wall and cannot be tricked. Thermite opens a really big hole really quickly. That's his kind of unique thing. Ace can not only hard breach, but he can also destroy deployable shields, Evil Eyes, depending on where they're located, some other stuff there. He can open 3 pretty big holes. So I love that they were able to provide another Heartbreacher, but make them fall into a niche that wasn't necessarily held by any of the other Heartbreachers. Another really good design decision. So that's really the big components of Ace's design that I appreciate. I mentioned that he's the best since Mira, and I want to touch on that just a moment here. The thing that a lot of people appreciate about Mira and why she's widely regarded as one of the best DLC operators of all time is that Mira completely changed the game, okay? Mira took not just objectives, but in complete maps and threw them on their head and made players learn to play those maps differently. Mira also enhanced so many other operators. So now because there's a Mira on the main wall on border armory objective, I as a buck have a new responsibility where I have to go underneath and open up the floor and shoot that Mira out. That's a really cool interaction, and that allows for a really cool moment for that buck to help the team without necessarily getting kills. And I think that's just a small example right there of why Mira is so widely regarded as a really great operator. And I think in different ways, Ace falls into that. I'm really appreciating the design decisions that went into Ace. I think that he's somebody that's going to be strong, affect the meta, but also be fair and not oppressive. And that will enhance the game for not just the person playing Ace, but all people playing within that round. And that's a beautiful designed operator. So with that said, guys, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you have any concerns with Ace? Do you understand what I'm saying, why I'm so high on Ace right now? Let me know all that stuff down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll have more coming your way here soon.